Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to add a real coal load to my Strasbourg 89's tender. This is my O-scale 89 tender that I've been working on in some of the past videos. It has a cast fake coal load. It sounds like it's metal, die cast. So we are going to apply a real load of coal to it. Some of the products you're going to need are Elmer's white glue, rubbing alcohol, water, a container to kind of mix some stuff around in, probably a couple containers. I'm going to use some of these icebreaker mince containers that take the lids off. I'm probably going to use this today, not the Greek yogurt container, but we're going to mix our concoctions in these today. I have a couple different one of those that I save. And then obviously we're gonna need some coal. So I purchased this online for a few dollars. It's Woodland Scenics, just lump coal. That's all it is. You know, it's kind of just crushed up coal. You can make it finer for whatever aesthetics you're looking for. But we're going to first mix some Elmer's glue and some water 50-50 mix in here. Apply it with a Q-tip to here. Get a base coat down. And then once that's down, we're gonna put our coal load in on top of it. And then we're going to add a mixture of the alcohol, 50-50 mix of alcohol and water together, kind of dab it on with a Q-tip, let it sit and dry, and it's done. So let's dive in. Okay, so I have my 50-50 mix of glue and water in the container. I've gone around the edge. I like to put a little edge around the tender. This is a wall of just glue itself. Kind of create a base there for the coal when it's added. But we're going to go ahead and dip our Q-tip in. And we're going to pat it on top. That's where we want the coal to stick to. Now the reason why you really dilute this down is Elmer's glue, or any glue, hobby glue, when it dries, has a sheen to it. The water will help it, one, be malleable inside these little cracks, fill in all these little holes, because this regular glue will kind of just clump up. So this helps it to just get all in there, and it'll help the finish when it's dry, partially. Now that's where the alcohol will come into play later on. When we drip that into place, it will help everything to kind of just settle down, make sure everything's mixed properly, and is well set. So we're going to get this applied here. So we're going to go all the way around until we're done, and then get to the next step. Okay, so we have our glue layer on. I'm going to kind of just sprinkle on the coal, and we'll spread it out once it's on. Make sure I get a nice coat of this coal on there. From there. Okay, so we have our coal in place here. I think it looks pretty good for how we want it. So what I'm going to do next is we're going to go back to the glue mixture. We want to get all this set because we're not just doing a thin layer on top of what's there. I have a nice decent load in here, so we're going to get back to the 50-50 glue mix. We're going to allow this to kind of drop into the coal all the way around. I'm going to kind of dab it. Get it all up in there so that it'll set in place, all in between the coal. So we're gonna go all the way around, and then we'll come back to the next step. Okay, so we got our 50-50 mix of glue and water on the coal itself. You'll notice it kind of doesn't go everywhere, and this is where the next step comes into. We need to dilute some alcohol and water in a container. So you're gonna use another icebreakers container. We're going to dilute it in there, that 50-50 mix, and we'll drip it over top of this. And this will help the glue kind of settle down everywhere, and it won't have that sheen to it. It kind of helps with the glue as well, because the glue's already diluted, but it'll spread it everywhere, make sure it's nice and even, and it'll look like a real coal load sitting in there. So let's dive in. So we're going to get let's get this from Walmart or wherever. Alcohol, put it in our container. So do a little bit of that. You don't need a lot. Water, This is filtered water from my refrigerator, and just enough to match the alcohol that's in there. And then we need a clean Q-tip. So my toolbox here, get a Q-tip out, and we're just going to put my finger in the front of the camera, mix that together, and then we'll get our Q-tip and we're gonna just drip it over the coal. And that'll help everything settle into place. So I'll continue doing that and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so we have our 50-50 mix of water and alcohol on everything. It helps the glue separate. As you can see, everything's spread out now and everything's coated. Now, if you want, you can grab the other end of your Q-tip, and if you need to adjust some stuff, if you want a little bit more different texture, or you need to move it around a little bit, you can do that right now before everything sets and starts to dry. Move it all around. If you need to get away from the edges, you can do so. And if you need to, if you have certain spots that are a little too wet, like this corner here, and there, you can add a little bit, gotta be careful, but add a little bit more coal to the mixture while it's wet like this. That way it will adhere to it. So I'm gonna come back in, it's a little bit more coal. I'm just gonna sprinkle just a little bit there. It's okay if you add too much, because what will happen is at the end, once everything is dry, you can basically shake off the excess. So, all right, so added a little bit more coal to it, temper it in, so make sure everything gets a coat on it, and it'll knock some of the excess loose. Work it in just a little bit. And again, that stuff that falls on the back, that's okay. We didn't treat it with any type of glue solution, so that won't stick at all. So don't have to worry about the back of the tender there. It's a little wet here, so add a little coal here. Only around, I put a little spill here. Lionel had added some fake coal to the front there in front of the doors. So I added some there, kind of mixed it all together. What I'll do is I'll show you my HO scale version tender. I used the same technique on that, added coal to it, and on the front there, got some ready for the firemen there to scoop it up. So same kind of effect with that coal, and nice and solid. So that is a little bit more of a finer coal for each O scale. Looks a little bit more realistic, but this is more coarse for the O scale that we're working with here. A little bit more larger to life for this scale. But I think that's about it. So I think it looks pretty good. Just going to temper just a little bit here. And then the best thing for this to do now is to essentially sit and dry. I want to give it a couple hours. Not that there's a lot of glue in here, but I want to let all that moisture dry out, everything to basically come together into fruition. And at that point, you'll have a realistic looking coal load. So we're going to leave it here, and then we'll come back a little bit later when everything's dried out, and I'll show you how it looks. Okay, so it's been almost an hour now. You can see that a lot of the white has gone away. It's starting to dry out a little bit. It's going to take a few hours for something of this size to completely dry out. You can see in the front here, it still has a little bit of a whitish tint to it. But it'll take a couple hours, but essentially that's what it's going to look like when it's done, just minus the moisture. And again, all this stuff that's excess on the back, once it's completely dry, I can shake this off into the trash or into a container so I can use it on something else. But that's pretty much about it. So you'll see it in another video. I'll show you the finished product, and we'll go from there into the next project. Thanks so much, guys.